Fish Unfiltered episode 70. We have a packed episode today. A lot to talk about with our bold predictions. We did these last year. It was Isaac, Eli, and myself. They didn't go too well. That's why they're bold. We're shooting for the stars. We're gonna see what happens, but we're gonna do this again. Each of us are gonna have 4 predictions, and we have a special guest on, Alex Carver, Fish on the Farm. So I'm excited to do this. Isaac, we're just less than a week away from opening day, more or less, when this comes out. So excited to watch Sandy versus Skeens, now confirmed by the Pirates. So yeah, it should be a good one, and I'm excited for March 27th.
Yeah, we are recording this on Tuesday, March 18th. The Marlins have about, I want to say, 5 more spring games, not including the Yankee game on March 25th. Really, now's a perfect time to go over these bold predictions. And today we have 2 of our elder staff members, our founder, Mr. Eli Sussman, and the founder of Fish on the Farm, Alex Carver. So it's going to be a fun time, and bold predictions are always a good time. So I'm very excited to get into it.
I'm glad you said the 2 most elder members of Fish on first, because I think that's how we'll determine the order. We'll go from oldest to youngest. We'll start with Carver, then we'll go with Eli, Isaac, and I'll wrap it up. So we're doing 4 each, and let's make them bold, boys. I think we should shoot for the stars with all these. So Carver, take us away.
Wow, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I know what I would go with, but I know that Isaac wants to do it. So and he has a little bit more insight than me because he's watched this guy a little bit more. But I will go with the guy that's going to start in the minor leagues, and I'll go with Agustín Ramírez. This is going to be my first bold prediction. Agustín Ramírez will come up this season as soon as he is eligible, and I will say for my first bold prediction that he hits 20 home runs in the major leagues. That is Agustín Ramírez hitting 20 home runs for the Marlins. Power's in the tank. I don't think he will spend as much time as you guys think that he will at catcher. I think they're going to take that defensive burden off of him, and I will say that he will be in the lineup as a bat first, and I think that he will hit a lot of home runs. Even in Miami, I don't care. This guy is a power first bat that is for real. He showed it this spring with exit velocities. I like Agustín Ramírez in Major League Baseball to hit 20 home runs this season.
Okay. Well, I'm with you in the sense that he's going to have enough time in the big leagues to accumulate that many home runs. And I think the ballparks that they're going to play in will certainly help. All over the NL East, it's pretty hitter friendly for especially right-handed hitters. So yeah, I like it. I have an Agustín Ramírez related prediction, but I might save it for the end. So anyway.
Well, when's the time any Marlins rookie hit 20+ home runs? I know Stanton did it in a abbreviated season, kind of similar to Agustín. That was 15 years ago when Stanton hit 22. But there are not a ton of examples, especially guys that haven't even had a taste of the big leagues yet. In his case, where that'd be very impressive. And I'm not against it at all. I could see that possibility happening just because, for as high as we were last season on him, I think his stock has only gone up this spring. The quality of his at-bats and the raw power is awesome.
Justin Moore in 2015, and this is his rookie year. He had some cup of coffee in 2014, but in his rookie year, Justin Moore hit 23. So there you go.
Yeah. So Agustin's had an awesome spring. He's shown a lot at catcher too defensively. Like it's been an improvement there. Honestly, I know you're still not totally convinced, Carver, but I think he'll stick there for now. They're gonna want him there, obviously. So they traded him to do, and he's had a fun spring. And when we're talking about like guys who could potentially force the front office's hand, that was one of the guy I mentioned. And not that he forced it, but he definitely showed that this guy's more than major league ready, at least on the offensive side. So, all right, Eli, take us away.
I will start with my least bold prediction here. Though I want to get one on the board that I think is reasonably bold, but also one that is more attainable, and that is Xavier Edwards building upon his awesome half season last year over the course of a full season, putting up at least 4 wins above replacement by Fangraphs accounting. Now, if you simply double what he did last year, he gets there. He put up 2.2 last year. You could simply double that and he gets there. The thing is, he hit 328 last season, and his BABIP was through the roof. He's not going to sustain that. I think everybody's in agreement on that. Yet, when you look at any projections on him, the most optimistic one I saw from Steamer had him at 3.2, which is where I get to this number and feel it's sufficiently bold. It's well above any projection. It would also be the highest number for any Marlins shortstop in a season since Hanley Ramirez. Going back all that time. It's even a half touch of what Jose Reyes did in his Marlins season. It's above anything that Mickey Rowe did in his defensively fueled success during his Marlins tenure. With Edwards, most of this is about his offense. It's about him still being a very good hitter. He's been an on-base machine this spring in a way that I think is somewhat sustainable. Even if the hits go down, the walks are going to be there. Once he gets on, he's a hyper-efficient base stealer. He's been very forthcoming this spring about how he wants to steal bases just as frequently as he did last year, which would put him on pace to be one of the league's most valuable base runners in a way that is also going to be reflected in his value. I think his defense is viable at this point. It did not look pretty for most of last year. Even watching, as we're recording this, the most recent spring game, there are still times where his arm strength does hold him back, and some of his other like mechanics when it comes to all aspects of being a shortstop. Yet I think all things considered, that won't drag down his value too much. And I think he gets this number in a way that would probably make him the most valuable overall position player on the Marlins this season.
Yeah, 70 games last year, and he had a 2 WAR on Baseball Reference. I don't know what it was on Fangraphs. He said fWAR. I don't know what it was on Fangraphs, but a 2 WAR, BWAR, I guess I should say. But yeah, I definitely could see it. This guy's going to play the whole year. He's going to be on the Marlins all year long. That speed is just amazing. I don't see that diminishing anytime soon in his age 25 season, I guess this is coming into. So I don't think that's going to diminish. I think that his defense will get better, actually. I really do. I think that his defense is only going to get better, especially as he spends more time middle infield, so especially shortstop. So if he spends a lot of time there, I really do think that it's not going to come by way of power. I really don't think that he's going to come into a huge power surge, but I do think that with the multitude of speed that he provides, and if he gets more comfortable in the infield, which it seems like he is doing, I like Xavier Edwards. I think he's going to be the best player on this team. I can see this happening for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, 2 of mine are already taken off the board. Not exactly the same thing, but 2 players that I was focused on. But I am going to go with a Carver aided one, Mr. Ryan Weathers, rocking a new number, rocking a new body. I think that he's going to strike out at least 200 batters this inning. I think it's a very, very bold one because even if he's thrown 242 innings in his major league career and he has not struck out 200 guys in those innings, he's struck out only 198. So this spring he is striking out a batter per inning, but I do think this is all health related. If he is healthy, he makes 28 to 32 starts. I can see a world where he's in the 175 to 195 range, hence the boldness. I'm going to round up and say that he has the first 200 strikeout season since just a few years ago when Sandy Alcantara had a 200 strikeout season. I won't say 200 innings because I think that's a little bit too bold, but 200 strikeouts, maybe average 11 Ks per 9. I think it's doable.
Off the top of my head, I think that would shatter the Marlins. Well, I think it's Jesus Luzardo right now who has
208. Yeah, he had 208 in 2023.
That's right.
Yeah. The first name that came to mind with a lefty Marlins starter, I don't know what is wrong with me. The first thing that came to mind was when Caleb Smith in 2019, he got to a number that like only Al Leiter had gone to. So Luzardo shattered that, but actually wasn't that long ago that Caleb Smith was on the short list of lefty strikeout artists in Marlins history. So I hope that Weathers, I would say that he is a worthy successor. he's that'd be more impressive. And I think he has the talent to get there. Yeah. With the adjustments he's made.
Alrighty. So I'm going to start with this one. It's already bold enough. I think the Marlins will have multiple All-Stars this season. So Sandy has to be the lock. But if another one of these pitchers like a Ryan Weathers or, Xavier Edwards is having a really good year, you never know if they could just slip in there. I mean, we saw 2022, they had 3 All-Stars and they were not a very good baseball team. So I'll go with that. We'll see the hits. I mean, Sandy should still be on the Marlins by then. And then there's a lot of other pitchers that could really make a name for themselves, like a Weathers. If Xavier Edwards is having himself a nice year, I mean, he's got to get in there. Same thing goes with like a Norby. So I think they'll have multiple All-Stars and representing the Marlins in Atlanta this year.
And I know it won't count technically, but if Sandy is traded before the All-Star game, I will still give it to you. I'll still give you Sandy because I think that counts.
All righty, Carver. Back to you.
What do I want to go with here? All right, we'll go with this. This one is, you guys are going to say it's really bold and you're going to blame it on me loving this pitcher, but I do love this pitcher. I will say that Josh Ekness leads the Marlins in saves. Josh Ekness, who throws 100 miles an hour, 97, 98 sitting. This pitcher will come up very shortly. The Marlins don't have a bona fide closer. I mean, you can look at Bender. You can look at some other guys that are on the team. Tanoko. You can look at some of these other guys. They don't really have a true closer. I think Josh Ekness is a true closer. So I think that Josh Ekness will make his way with the Jumbo Shrimp to start the season. Unfortunately, that's what he's going to have to do. I think he starts there and is up very shortly as one of the first guys up and leads the Marlins, who won't have a ton of saves, but I think he will lead the Marlins in saves. Josh Ekness leads the Marlins in saves in 2025.
I hope you're right.
I thought something along those lines, just in terms of the current options they have in their pen right now. It's really muddled in terms of who's going to do that. There were times last year where fWAR was extremely impressive and Tanoko were right now, and both of them are healthy. There's Anthony Bender in the mix, but I think for real this time, Skip Schumacher last year would say that they didn't have a set closer, and then very early in the year he would settle on somebody. In this case, it really does feel closer by committee, at least early on in the year, until somebody steps up and fills that void. I was toying around with the idea of Andrew Nardi, even though he's going to be out for a while, that once he comes back, I felt like he has the potential to move into that role by the middle of the year and lead in this category. With Ekness, it's more of an uphill climb just because he still has more to show in the upper minors, I think, before they give him that opportunity.
No, it's not like any of those big time relievers are having great springs either in Tanoko and Bender and fWAR. They are struggling. So, all right, fair enough.
Yeah,
Perfectly
it could also be
Sorry,
like one of that Anthony Maldonado situation, where he comes up really early like he did. And if Ekness gets off to that type of a start that Maldonado did, I mean, and obviously performs better than Maldonado did, yeah, I mean, he could go up there and he could do his thing. And that's a guy who throws gas, as Carver mentioned, and he's in their top 30. So, yeah, good stuff there, Carver. All right, Eli.
I always have to include a negative one in my bold predictions. I guess this qualifies. For the Marlins pitching staff to allow the most walks in the National League this year, I made it the National League. That makes it not quite as bold just because it chops out the White Sox. The White Sox far and away led the majors last year in walks. The Marlins were high up there. I think they were sixth most in the big leagues last year and third most in the NL. And I don't think that's going to improve a whole lot. The thing is, in terms of stuff wise, there have been a lot of good stories coming out of spring training. Sandy throwing as hard as ever, Ryan Weathers throwing harder than ever, etc. I'm just not convinced looking across this group that the control is all that good. This kind of branches off of Alex's previous point about his prediction about Agustín Ramírez spending a lot of time in the big leagues. I don't have a high regard for him as a framer or as a receiver in general. And I think there could be some borderline pitches, more so than usual, that go against Marlins pitchers in these close counts. We don't have the challenge system yet to overcome some of those mistakes in a way that I think is going to add up and make things more difficult. This is mainly on the pitchers, though, and just the group that they've assembled. When it comes to Sandy, even with Yuri coming back mid-season, with these Tommy John survivors in their first year back in action, I think that is one of the bigger question marks, is whether they can command and really dot their stuff as precisely as they did before their injury. Even this spring, Ryan Weathers has been a great story. Ryan Weathers has walked 8 guys in 11 innings or something like that. Not to mention one of the other ones who's going to be a staple of this rotation, at least for the first half of the season, Cal Quantrill. He led the NL individually in walks last season with the Rockies. And this spring, that continues to be an issue as well. They're going to give him a long leash to try to reestablish himself. There's been nothing I've seen in camp that makes you confident that he is going to be all that efficient. So I think this is a group that overall has good raw stuff and might actually and should have better results overall than last year's pitching staff does. I think this is going to be something that holds them back. In addition to the other obvious flaws of this Marlins group, mainly on the position player side, I think this is an issue on the pitching side in terms of control, where they're going to be giving out a lot more free passes than you're accustomed to seeing, and it's going to come back to bite them a little bit.
All right. My second bold prediction. We're going to go. I made a similar one last year about Griffin Conine.
Oh, no, don't take mine.
An unlikely player to come up and hit a home run. Jacob Berry is going to come up and hit his first big league home run in 2025. He's going to get an opportunity, show off some third base skills, maybe play some DH first base. I don't know where they're going to put him defensively, but I think they're going to see him. They got to see. All right. 6th overall pick. We got to see what they have. And he's going to pull one out from the left side of the batter's box. He's going to pull one out at home in Miami.
All righty. Hey, that'll help Eli on the call-up contest. So
It will.
Yeah. All righty. I'm going to go one with Connor Norby. I think Mr. Norby will have himself a 30-30 season. He wanted to hit 30 home runs. He said that's a goal of his. He would surpass Berger from last season. And you know they've been talking a lot of game about the Marlins trying to steal a lot more bases, trying to be cause some havoc in the base paths. I could see Norby getting in on the action. It's as bold as it gets with Norby, but geez, when was the last time Marlon had a 30-30 season? It's been a very long time. So
Norby, he has never stolen more than 16 bases in his professional career.
Well, we'll see what happens. He's gonna have 162 games to do it, hopefully.
Yes. Okay. I think that 30 home runs is extremely bold, much less with the 30 stolen bases. But that's probably definitely the boldest one we have so far. So kudos to you.
Yeah, there's more where that came from. Alrighty, Carver, let's do it.
I'll go with Javier Sanoja. Javier Sanoja, I think, spends the whole year on the team. He is very easy to get into games. I think he plays in at least 120 games, I would say. At least. I would say that Javier Sanoja gets into at least that many games. And I think he holds down at least a 275 batting average. So I think Javier Sanoja has that easy contact skill. He's fast. He steals bases. That's beyond the point. But I think my bold prediction for this one is that he gets into that many games and hits 275 plus. I know nobody likes batting average, but that's this guy's forte is batting average. He gets on base. He will play in 120 games and hit 275 plus. Javier Sanoja. Stud.
All right.
It's been interesting from the beginning. We're coming into camp. I didn't think he would be on the roster. I thought they would go with Ronnie Simon or any other random utility guy to plug that gap. And as spring went along, and we're speaking today after Ronnie Simon was officially reassigned to minor league camp, which makes it seemingly a formality that Sanoja is going to make the team. It's an interesting spot because the way they developed him is unique. You just do not see guys all throughout their minor league career playing more than three, but generally second base and shortstop and center field, basically in a rotation from a very young age instead of giving an opportunity to settle in somewhere. And he's done it and he's performed offensively during the course of it, as you've spoken to. So he's such a fascinating guy. Because I had my doubts about Xavier Edwards when he was coming up with some of the same offensive profile where it's a lot of contact, but it's very little power. And it's possible to translate. Yeah, with him, there's not a ton of discipline. It's all about his contact skills and whether he can put the balls in the right places. So I'm excited to see that. And I do think that is sufficiently bold.
Your turn.
Mine is going to be against the general assumption that everybody has that it's a ticking clock on Sandy's Marlins career. I don't think he gets traded.
No!
That's mine. I think Sandy is staying put at least through the end of the 2025 regular season.
Tuck mine.
I touched on it before that it's not a lock that his command is where it needs to be. We'll see how that plays out. There could be.
I agree.
I think there is a combination of factors where he performs at such a level and they get the offer that is fair in order to make that trade in July or even sooner, the way that Bendix made so many trades last year. One of the other concerns surrounding this is, as Ken Rosenthal just reminded the public, with the Marlins payroll situation, Sandy is their highest paid player, and they are already in hot water with the players' union by having the lowest payroll in the sport, being so far below what they should be spending based on what they receive from revenue sharing from other teams. Moving Sandy, whether it's 2/3 of the way through the year or even earlier, I mean, that's millions of more dollars that they'd be unloading in a particular type of deal. I just think it will be hard to find a deal that they're totally comfortable with from a return perspective, but also one that I think that is something in the back of their minds, not wanting to, I don't even know the exact words to put on this. Maybe they're not embarrassed by the payroll situation. They are putting themselves in in a really bad. It'll be really hard to defend from the players' union's perspective if they lower the payroll as much as they have, given what they're receiving from revenue sharing. And Sandy, aside from being their best asset, he's their highest paid guy. Maybe there's a scenario where they pay out everything he's owed the rest of this year, and that only increases what they would receive in return from another team. At the same time, I don't know if they're going to get a true can't miss future superstar to headline a package in return, because those guys so rarely get traded in the first place. It's hard to find common ground on a player like this when they still have 2.5 years. Well, at this moment, they have 3 years, but even at 2.5 years of club control, of cheap club control, it is hard to find common ground on these deals. I'm sure that Bendix is always listening. They're always exploring, having conversations about this type of stuff. I still think that there's enough things that could go wrong or could get in the way of the Marlins finding a deal that they're comfortable with, that they just kick this can down the road into the following offseason instead. And then he likely gets traded there as the final year of the Sandy experience. But I think he gets all the way through this season in Miami.
Yeah, you took mine. So, yeah. Alrighty, Isaac.
Alrighty, I don't know how confident I am with this one, but I'm going to stick with it. Let me just confirm one thing before we go with it. Yes, alrighty. Let's go. I think Bachar is going to lead the Marlins bullpen in fWAR this year. I think that half of the guys who I think will have maybe a higher WAR will get traded in Fauché, Cronin, Tinoco. I think Bachar has some special stuff, and I think that's someone that is going to be with the team for the whole year, going to be used in a myriad of different ways, and I think that's someone that is going to surprise a lot of people. He's projected currently by Fangraphs to have a negative 0.1 WAR. I think he produces at least half a win to a win, and he leads the Marlins bullpen in that category.
Yeah, he was pretty good towards the end of the year, so that's a good one. Alrighty. I will go with one that I think Carver may take, so I'm going to take it now just in case. Thomas White will debut in 2025 with the Marlins. So, the stuff is there. That guy is so good. I mean, if the Marlins are, they will be out of it by, late into the season. You may as well call him up, see what you got. He's going to start in AA. Thomas White will debut with the Marlins in 2025.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I was actually even going to say that he would debut before September, which I think that he could after the deadline. Like, I think that guy's going to push his way so much that the Marlins aren't going to be able to deny him. So I was going to say him. That is a great pick. I do think that Thomas White will be on the Marlins. It is bold, but because they don't have any reason to start the clock, especially in a lost season. But this organization has proved that if you're ready, they're going to challenge you. So I like this pick. I think that it's true. I really do think that Thomas will be here. I think before September, but if it's when rosters expand, whatever. But yeah, I don't think there's any reason to hold this guy back anymore, and I think that he'll continue to prove it.
All right, so this is your
as the
last
season
pick.
goes along. I mean, he's only going to go to AA, presumably go to AA to start the season.
Yeah.
So it's going to be his first taste of the upper minors, but this guy's just so far advanced, and I mean, he's hitting 100 miles an hour, like with the sick stuff that he has, continuing to improve, sweeper, all the stuff that he's doing. It's just great. I mean, this guy is so far ahead that I don't think there's a reason to hold him back. And I think the Marlins won't do that. I really don't think the Marlins will do that. So I like this. It is bold, yes, but I do like the pick.
Alrighty. Up to your last one, Carver.
Since you took that one, I'll go Max Meyer. I love Max Meyer. I know Isaac's going to hate this, but I like Max Meyer. I think Max Meyer is for real, and the improvements that he's made, I think, are for real. So all of mine are going to be player-centric, but I really like Max Meyer. I think he sticks as a starter the whole year. I think that he has a sub-4 ERA with a lower FIP, and I really do think that his WHIP will be like under 1.4. So I think this is going to be a solid pitcher. Put him down for me for a 3.75 ERA and a 1.35 WHIP. That's going to be my Max Meyer projection for this season. This guy's going to be really good. The improvements that he's made are there. I think that he is solid. So yeah, 3.75 ERA. I think with a lower FIP, because I don't think this infield will do him any favors. But I think that his true ability to throw these new pitches are going to be there. So 3.75 ERA, 1.35 whip, which is an underrated stat that I really still go by for pitchers, especially starters. This is going to be a quality starting pitcher for the Marlins. I really do believe in Max Meyer still, even though he's undersized, even though he's had all these problems with injuries, even though there's so many question marks about him going into the season. I really do believe in these improvements. I believe in his confidence, which has always been there. Max Meyer is a stud. He's going to be good this year.
Fish on First has partnered with About the Fans to launch a merchandise collection. Rep the FOF logo and more Marlins-inspired apparel. Find it all at aboutthefans.com. Enter coupon code FOF10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. FOF10 for a 10% discount.
Yeah, what makes this prediction bold to me is the whip. I think that's going to be tough. The ERA, I really hope. I agree. I do like the improvements. It's just so tough with a guy that's returning from an injury like that, who really saw crazy fluctuation in his stuff last year. The velocity, the fastball velocity does seem to be back, but they're also not really letting him throw that many pitches. It's extremely early in spring training. I like it. I hope you're right on this one, because if they can get some value out of him, one of my bold predictions is going to be that they trade him. So I certainly hope that this comes to fruition.
I'll go with the prospect one for my final pick, because I had some overlap with others you've already mentioned and I want to be unique here. Over the course of the season, you could say after the draft and the trade deadline, I believe that Dillon Head will be our top-ranked Marlins hitting prospect by then. He's somebody that has kind of fluctuated on our list since he was acquired nearly a year ago, because of course, he got injured almost immediately after coming to the Marlins, had surgery, was gone for a while. It looks pretty impressive this spring, both physically and from what we've been able to get glimpses of as a hitter, to say nothing of the plus speed that he already has, the high likelihood that he sticks in center field. So knock on wood, we get a fully healthy year from Head this year, initially at low A Jupiter. As this would suggest, I think he gets promoted during the season to high A Beloit at some point, and continues to just be a really great all-around player over there. His competition at this moment, the way that we have it right now, is Starlin Caba, ahead of Andrew Salas, and then Agustín Ramírez, who we all expect to graduate as we get deeper into the year. Davison De Los Santos is up there as well. Joe Mack, we'll see exactly how soon he graduates, but even assuming that he's prospect eligible, I think Dillon Head could just surpass him as an overall player who's even a little bit younger than Mack is. He's a little bit older than Caba and Salas, but I think he has the potential to be as good as all of them. So I know that our opinions internally have kind of bounced around a little bit, just because it's so hard to, in the absence of information, with somebody that just hasn't played very much in professional baseball to this point due to injuries. Now that he's fully healthy, I'm really impressed, and I think he's going to have a breakout year. If he hasn't already broken it, I think he's going to have the kind of year that makes him a consensus top 100 overall prospect in the game, and somebody that is right on the horizon for somebody that we could watch in 2026, more likely 2027 in the big leagues. But I think this is going to be a really successful all-around year for Dillon Head.
You don't think he can make it to Double-A this year towards the end?
Best case scenario, maybe he gets there. Yeah, it's within the realm of possibility. Yeah,
I agree.
A whole lot of time at high A.
I think it'll be a slow start, but I don't disagree with this bold prediction. I think it'll be a slow start, especially with cold weather months. I think he does start with the Sky Card, but I think with cold weather months, it'll be, unless the Marlins protect him and put him back in Jupiter, and then 2 months into the season they put him up there. That could be the thing too. But it's extremely hard to hit there early in the season. So I think it starts slow, and then he picks it up, because this guy has shown a ton of improvement, and I really do like the bat. So physical projections there. He's done a lot of work in the offseason with physicality. I think he spent the time off well while he was injured. So I love this pick. I think it is a bold pick, because there are a lot of talented hitting prospects that have come up in this organization, like Caba. There are others as well that are ranked over him that we have in the top 30, but I don't think this is out of the realm of possibility. I think it's bold because of the trajectory of his season and where he'll begin versus where he'll go. The Marlins have a lot of players that barely got time, that are going to need to spend time in Jupiter, and probably get pushed up pretty quickly as well. So I think this guy, I don't think there's pressure on him to succeed, but I think that there's roster movement questions that I think that he'll be involved in. So I think that it's definitely possible that he starts the season. I think he probably will start the season in Beloit, deal with those cold weather months, and then probably project from there as one of the top hitting prospects in the league and in this organization. So I like this pick. I think it's really good. I just think there's a lot of traffic for him to navigate where the Marlins won't be able to start him in Jupiter. I think he'll start in Beloit, but we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I really like Dillon Head. Really, really has a ton of potential. Offseason looks good. He looks good right now physically. He's looked good in camp. I think it's going to be a slow start. I don't think anybody should read into that, but I think this is a good pick. A bold one, but I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, and he was one of our biggest risers on the list, you know, when we did this past update, at least on the position player side. So, you know, I mean, I do agree that he should start in high A, but they'll probably start him in Jupiter just to not just avoid the cold weather. But I was talking to someone about this, and it's just like most, you know, it's closest to Miami. It's like it makes more sense. There's going to be more people there. You know, Beloit's like in the middle of nowhere. So like you prefer to have your guys there where there's more, I don't know, it just makes more sense to start him there. And again, the injury too. So you just want to see how he starts. So I like this bold prediction. All right, Isaac, last one.
He has had an incredible spring training on both sides of the ball. Even today, he's made some incredible plays.
Oh,
I'm trying to figure out how to put this to make it as bold as possible because you would think it's bold, but I want to add something to it. I think Otto Lopez is going to be a Gold Glove finalist at second base, and while also producing at least 4.0 fWAR. He accrued 2.6 bWAR last year while playing in, I think it was 117 ball games. If he really produces offensively the way that he has shown a little bit in spring training, a little bit of muscle added, a little more extra base hit power, a little bit over the fence power to go along with his elite second base defense up the middle, playing every single day, presumably, I don't see why he can't reach 4 WAR. That's a special play. And up the middle, that's probably the best up the middle tandem you've had since Hanley and Ugla, dare I say, Echeverria and D. Gordon. It's a pretty nice tandem they got there. Maybe not great defensively on the shortstop side, but it's two really special players in their own way.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Otto, and yes, you're right about the defense. At the plate, I just don't think he walks enough. This is one of my main things for him. He just doesn't really get on base enough with walks. And if you're relying on a guy who is he's not a huge dude at all. I mean, you're relying on this guy who's kind of lanky. He's a middle infielder. He's like 5'11". Like I really don't see him tapping into huge power, especially in Lone Depot. Maybe in the rest of the NL East, maybe. Then yeah, I know they go everywhere. I don't know. I don't know if he will do enough offensively to put up that kind of a D-WAR or that kind of an F-WAR, but it's not out of the realm of possibility if he surprises offensively. So this is definitely a bold prediction for sure. I just don't see it in the bat. I see it in the defense. I just don't see it in the bat. I will stick to what I've always said about this player, and I like Otto Lopez on a good team, on a contending team. He's more of a utility player. I really do believe that. Yes, the defense is elite. I understand that, but I think on a contending team and on a really good team, he's more of a utility style player. I just don't think he does enough offensively with the bat, doesn't walk enough, like I said before. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. If he proves me wrong, you could be right.
He has hit in almost every stop of his professional career. He has hit pretty well, but I do agree with you about the limitations. Can we agree that the Gold Glove finalist wasn't bold enough? Right.
I was just about to tell you
that wasn't bold enough. No,
I would have told you to say he will win the Gold Glove and put up 4 fWAR. That's the adjustment I would make for that one.
Nah, there's a lot of good infielders in the league, though, so I don't know if that would have been bold enough as it is to say he will win the Gold Glove. He should have been a finalist last season, but he was. I mean, I don't think he was, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know Bryce Terang won it last year, and I don't know how all of these grades out, but I think Gold Glove finalist. There's only 3 of them. Remember, we thought Miguel Rojas was going to be a finalist. It's not easy to be a Gold Glove finalist.
Yeah, exactly.
In the middle infield of the NL.
Yeah, I just don't see it offensively. But if he proves, he's had a great spring. So you're right about that. So we'll see what happens with him.
Yeah, I still don't know what to make exactly about how streaky he was offensively last year, where he was very good for the first couple months. And then he was the worst hitter on the team for another month-plus stretch right in the middle there. And then at the end, he was better than ever. His last couple months were excellent offensively, especially relative to the position. All through it all, the contact hitting is there, and the athleticism overall is good. Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence where I think it's reasonable to expect him to do what he did last season. I'm just not sure about where that improvement comes from offensively, unless he somehow just cuts out whatever bothered him in the middle of last year. But that slump he had in the middle of last season, where every single at bat was a ground ball, and sometimes it was a seeing eye single, and most times it was an out. I think I just have to assume moving forward he's going to be susceptible to those kind of ebbs and flows again. But we shall see. He's very easy to root for.
All righty. So I'm going to have to repeat a player, unfortunately, but I think this one will be a little bolder than the one Eli did. So right now, Juan Pierre holds the record for most stolen bases in a single season in franchise history. I think Xavier Edwards will break that record. So the record's currently 65. I think Edwards surpasses that. So
I like
he's
it.
going to be leading off. He's going to get on base a lot. I think he's going to do it. I think he has a really good shot at it. If there's anyone who could do it, I think it's him on this team. So we'll go with Edwards breaking the stolen base record in a single season in franchise history.
Love it. Love everything about it. I was going to try and add an Edwards one. I guess we were going to get a little bit repetitive, but he told us on Media Day, Kevin, you were there. His personal goal is to steal at least 60 bags. I think the question is, does he get on base enough? He definitely did last year. But I would like to see that walk rate improve a little bit. He just hits so much that, his on-base percentage is through the roof. So, yes, as long as he's hitting and just walking a little bit, he should be on base plenty of times to reach 65.
And you've seen it in camp, too, the work that they're doing with first and secondary leads. I think that multiple days that I was there this spring, they have been working on just base running, just first and secondary leads, which I don't think Edwards has a ton to work on in that capacity. I just think he's so fast that he's just an instinctive base runner that I think is definitely capable of that peak. I really do. I think that 65 stolen bases, though, no matter who you're talking about, no matter what player you're talking about, is a large pedestal to climb. But I think that amongst anybody on this roster, I think, and amongst a lot of guys in the league and a lot of guys that we've seen play for the Marlins, this player is definitely worthy of it because he just gets on base so much, as Isaac just said. So I think it's definitely possible that this guy hits 300 plus and steals 60 bags. That would be absolutely amazing. So I think it's a bold prediction because that's a huge pedestal, but a good one.
My hesitation with that is just remembering the season that Ellie De La Cruz had last year early on. It seems like he was on pace for 100. He was doing what we had not seen anybody do for decades since like Ricky Anderson. Early on, he ends up staying healthy the whole year. He ends up being a really productive player the entire year. And you know where he finished, Ellie De La Cruz, last year? He finished at 67, and so much went right for him as an offensive player and health-wise. And it seems like he was going to leave everybody else in the dust, and yet he winds up right there. It's been so long, forget about the Marlins, but across all franchises, it's been so rare for anybody to get to that number. There's such a big gap between even like 50 and 60 that there's a certain limit where just physically you really feel it as the season goes on. Even if you're getting on base, the guys just sometimes subconsciously, they just make the decisions that maybe I'm not going to steal here in August the same way that I would in April, and it slows down. I can see it. It is the fact that it is on his mind tells you something.
Helps.
But yeah, that helps that he's actually might go out of his way to do it, even if it's not in the team's best interest every single time. But I admire that. That's something that makes the season like this more entertaining, that these players have their own goals in mind that keep them motivated even during the dog days. So we shall see.
The other thing too about this subject is, yes, this is a fast player. Yes, this is a guy who gets on base. Yes, this is a guy who has a good contact skill. His BABIP last year was just astronomical. And I don't even think for a player like this is sustainable. He BABIP 398, which is insane. Like, I don't think he's going to repeat a 398 BABIP. Like that, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's closer to what he did in the minors, which is like a 350, 360, which is still high, but is sustainable for a guy that is as fast as he is. But to BABIP almost 400 is not repeatable. So I don't think he's going to BABIP that high, which will probably limit on base numbers, especially I know a lot of people say that lineup protection is a myth. The Marlins will not have a ton behind him, I don't think, unfortunately, even if he leads off. So I think that that's something to keep in mind as well, that maybe he'll walk a little bit more. Maybe he'll have more opportunity for stolen bases because he'll walk a little bit more because they're going to pitch around him at the top of the lineup. That's a possibility too. I just don't think that he will get on base nearly as much as he did last year at that what did he hit? 328, I think that's probably going to come down. So not to necessarily say that he can't do 300. That's a possibility for a two-contact guy. I just think with that BABIP coming down, less chances on base, especially with the two-contact stuff. I don't think he's going to walk a totally much higher amount than he did, even with the line of protection being what it is. So it's a bold prediction for sure. But I would expect his BABIP definitely to come down, which would limit those chances.
So before we wrap up, just what other predictions did you guys have that you guys may have left on the back burner? I have a couple. Isaac, I'm sure you do, as well as Eli.
I had a highly specific one that this would be the year the Marlins throw their first combined no-hitter in team history. They have had 6 conventional no-hitters off the top of my head. Leiter, Brown, Burnett,
Anibal,
Henderson,
and Volquez.
Alvarez, and Volquez. So, but all those guys want the distance. In today's day and age, I think this is an emerging organizational philosophy that where they're going to maximize the effectiveness every inning and every pitcher out there, but not the longevity that these starters have. This is a year where even if Sandy is absolutely humming, and even if Ryan Weathers, whoever you want to put in there, is on top of their game, I don't think we're going to see any complete games from Marlins pitchers.
Yeah, I had that one. I had the no complete games.
Yeah,
that was mine.
But I do think there are going to be situations, and it even matches up with the negative one I made earlier, where there's going to be some control issues with this team, but there are going to be certain nights where they're just unhittable, where the stuff that they have and all the work they've put in on pitch design this past offseason is going to pay off in a way that shuts down the opposition. So they've never had a combined no-no in the team's history. They haven't had a no-no at all since Volquez nearly 8 years ago at this point. And I think I can see several different guys being at the front of that, but it would be a combined effort with a couple pen arms involved.
Yeah, I had another Edwards one just in case. I said he would win the batting title, so he would snap Luis Arraez's streak, at least on the National League side. And then I had that Griffin Conant would hit 25 homers, and I said Ryan Weathers would win the Cy Young. But you guys already had a Weathers one, so I didn't want to repeat that. But any on your end, Isaac?
Yeah, I had another Xavier one as well. I had him winning the title, and I had him accruing at least 3 WAR more than Luis Arraez in 2025. Just to, there's always these comparisons. So the anger when Arraez was traded, and hey, we have Arraez at home and Xavier Edwards. And I just want people to realize how much more valuable Xavier Edwards is than Luis Arraez. So I had that one. But once Eli went with a 4 WAR, there was no way for me to do that. And the other one I had was Agustín Ramírez receiving NL Rookie of the Year votes. I'm probably going to quote tweet our report on this with that. I do think he's going to get Rookie of the Year votes. But Carver took that one, and that was pretty much it.
I had another Agustín related one that he was going to out homer Jazz, given that they were traded for each other. That Jazz
in that ballpark,
despite the ballpark he's in, and even though he's coming off a career high in homers last season, that it doesn't mean that he's totally past the injury issues he's had before. And it was even more so, of course, a flattering prediction for what Agustín is going to do. Carver put his total over 20, and I'm kind of aligned with that. As long as he gets called up relatively early in the year, whether it's the DH or catch or both, you guys have known. I haven't mentioned it too much on this show, but I'm still a little skeptical about what the Liam Hicks season looks like as it plays out. It's so hard for catchers especially, to skip a whole level and to play in the big leagues and to play only part-time and have success. I think there's a lot of circumstances that would lead to Agustín coming up early in the year, playing close to every day, and having immediate success right there.
All righty. Last thing I want to dive into right before we wrap up is just the news with Edward, who will begin the season on the IL, Edward Cabrera. Tough blow, obviously, just because, the stuff is there. He struggled a lot this spring, but Connor Gillespie will most likely take that spot. They'll need to make a corresponding move, which I'm just guessing is once Cabrera officially goes on the IL, they'll just, I believe, add Gillespie there for now. But Isaac, obviously, tough blow. You don't want to start your season with a rotation already down a man, but Gillespie's been pretty good this spring. Had a pretty good start again today when we're recording this. So not the worst situation that could have happened for the Marlins. But again, this is a guy who we'll see. He has to face the Mets. So, if everything lines up as we expect.
Death, taxes, and a weird spring training issue with Edward Cabrera. Whether it's a finger injury or a nail injury or a visa issue, something always seems to go wrong with Edward Cabrera in the month of March. I don't know what it is, But once again, it has happened in 2025. And you know what? The way he was pitching prior to the injury, I don't know if that had anything to do with the way he was performing, but he just could not get outs in any Grapefruit League appearance that he had. He did not look good. That is someone who President of Baseball Operations, Peter Bendix, was very, very bullish on. He had high expectations for him, new pitching staff, new coaching staff. Maybe they could unlock it, something that Mel Stoudemire couldn't do. It didn't look like it was going in that direction all of March. So it is tough just because you know how special the stuff is. Sandy Alcantara said that he's got the best stuff on the entire organization. The former #1 overall prospect just has not gone the way any of us thought after a pretty decent 2021 rookie campaign. But it's tough to see yet another strange injury. As you can see out here, the inflamed nerve in the right biceps in 2021, the biceps fatigue in 2022. He was healthy in 23, and then a shoulder issue in 24. And today, this year, right middle finger blister.
Wasn't 2023 the visa?
Well, what I want to point out about 2023, that's when he was healthy in the opening day rotation. And if you guys remember, his first 2 starts of that year, he walked 13 batters in 2 starts. So he was healthy and in the rotation, but he just was not effective, at least early on in that year. And it was he got hurt in the middle of that year. He's never had, none of these 5 years, looking at the last 5, has he been fully healthy from start to finish. So I've spoken plenty about Edward and my views on him. Fortunately, in this case, it's not a severe setback. He's already throwing again. Should only be a couple starts that he misses at the start of the year before he builds back up. We shall see, just because, as Isaac noted, his effectiveness this spring was awful. So assuming that he looks, it goes better during this ramp up period, we should see him mid-April back in this Marlins rotation again. And what is yet another make or break year for him, at least as a starter for sure. He's on a short leash, as we've talked about on previous streams, in order to prove that he can actually take a step forward after really just not doing so the last few years.
Talk about Connor Gillespie, Carver. We're not very high on him.
No, is this going to be a guy that wins a Cy Young award? No, but is it a guy that's usable in a rotation at the back end of a rotation especially for this team? Yeah. I mean, he's got like 4 or 5 pitches. He elevates with fastball, cutter. He's, down low in the zone, as you saw today, with slider and changeup. I think it's usable. I don't think this guy is going to be a guy that blows you away whatsoever, but it's usable. And that's what the Marlins need right now, is usable guys that they can save their prospects for. I mean, they're going to use this guy instead of calling up Snelling, and that's exactly what you need. That's exactly what you want out of a guy of this caliber. The Marlins know what they have here. I mean, this zone capacity here, the fact that he can go near and in and out of the strike zone for strikes and swings and misses, 5 whiffs today, that's all you can ask for out of a 5th starter. So I think he's fine. I don't think he's a Cy Young. I don't think he's an ace. I don't think he's necessarily a future cornerstone or anything, but it's a usable arm right now, and that's what the Marlins need, especially as they plug and play because of injuries. So and wanting to save prospect contracts. So this is fine. It's not bad at all, and this guy's earned it. So why not have him on the roster? He's earned his spot there. He needs to be there. He should be there. This is totally fine with me. I like this guy as the 5th starter. It's fine.
And the last thing I want to quickly touch on is that Jesus Sanchez injury. Left oblique strain. He'll miss 4 weeks, so technically first 2 weeks of the season. We'll see what that looks like, as time progresses. So that kind of leaves us to an outfield where it'll probably be Conan in left, Derek Hill in center, Dane Myers in right, and then on the outside looking in, we're still looking at Albert Almora, who remains the final outfielder, not on the 40-man, I want to say, in camp. And this is what I want to talk about real quick, because Kyle Stowers has been awful. Like, there's no other way to say it. In 30 at-bats, he struck out 15 times. Isaac, I know you've been pretty adamant about it recently. How do you see this all playing out? I really find it hard that they won't have Stowers on the opening day roster, but, I mean, the way he's performed, I mean, you should keep him down in AAA. And, Almora's kind of heated up recently. He could play all 3 spots. I would prefer Almora over Stowers right now, but I don't know if they'll do that,
Yeah, there's a couple of things they can do here, but just regarding Stowers, it's been tough to watch because he has gone on base. He has drawn a considerable amount of walks, but if it's not a strikeout or a walk, it's directly into the ground. He has not come close to an extra base hit all spring long. I know they acquired him. Obviously, it was more so about Norby, but I do think they have some sort of stock in this player. even though Trevor Rogers didn't really work out that well for Baltimore, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he makes this ball club. I think he's got to show something, like Eli said on Twitter earlier. They can do a couple of other things. They can have either one of Heriberto Hernandez or Ronnie Simon make the club and sort of insert Javier Sanoja to get some corner reps. I don't think he's got the arm to play center or even right, but you could sort of have him replace that little outfield void and just really count on Derek Hill and Dane Myers to at least tread lightly or tread waters, because it's going to be tough the way that Cal Stowers has been hitting in spring training. But the more likely scenario, I think Stowers is going to hit a home run next couple of days and he's going to make the club.
All righty. We'll wrap it up there then. One more week of spring training games. And then after that, I mean, we're back in Miami with Marlins, Yankees, and then Marlins, Pirates, 4-game set. I mean, can't ask for a better opening day matchup of Sandy and Skeens after that with Mitch Keller. You're going to have Jared Jones in there for the Pirates. It'll be a fun first series for sure. Let's hope it's not an 0-4 start for the Marlins. I don't think it will be, but alrighty. We'll wrap it up here from Isaac, Eli, Carver, myself. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Peace out and go fish.